Welcome to this month's Doctor's Corner, and April is Stress Awareness Month, and so I'm joined by Dr. Aisha Prim, who's going to tell us about stress and ways to cope. So, Dr. Prim, what is stress at its basic level?
Well, I like to start with a quote from Dr. Hans Sayé, and he stated that to be totally without stress is to be dead.
Oh.
So therefore, we know that stress is part of our human experience, and we are all in good company. And stress actually can occur as a result of physical, emotional, or a psychological strain, where the chemicals in our body, adrenaline and cortisol, are released. And this results in a fight or flight response, causing an increased heart rate, increasing our blood pressure, as well as increasing our blood sugar levels, among other changes.
Got it. I really like that quote because it sort of tells you, too, that some stress is normal, right? That we need some of that in our lives.
Absolutely.
No, that's helpful. And so knowing that there may be some good stress and some bad stress, what are some types of stress?
Well, one of the ways that we can categorize stress is temporally. So there are the acute stressors. For an example, if you're in a traffic jam, there is episodic stress, and a good example of that would be college exam week. And then there's chronic stress, and chronic stress is the most detrimental. A perfect example of that is this pandemic, lasting for months or even over a year. And it's chronic stress and the consistent elevation of those cortisol and adrenaline levels that causes damage to the body.
Got it. And I think we're all seeing that. I mean, it's been a year and a half. We've been working remotely. We're sort of separated from some of our loved ones, not being able to come to church, for example. But what are some other common stressors?
Well, relationships are very stressful. Obviously, chronic medical conditions, acute medical conditions. Unfortunately, we've all suffered a lot of loss of loved ones or friends or know someone who has. And social injustice, racism, all of those are stressors, financial strain, and the list goes on. And I'm sure that all of us can find ourselves in one of those categories.
Especially lately. And so then how does stress affect us, or how does it show up in our body?
Well, a couple of ways, but primarily the exposure of our body to adrenaline and particularly cortisol chronically, severe and prolonged exposure causes distress.
Got it.
And distress is a state which, our body, we can experience hair loss, changes in our appetite, resulting in weight gain or weight loss, irritability, difficulty sleeping, and of course the other symptoms such as, high blood pressure, increasing our risk of heart attack and stroke, and so on and so forth.
So that's not the stress we want in our lives.
Absolutely not.
But all of those symptoms could also be symptomatic of other things. Are there any red flags that we should be looking for to know when someone may be too stressed?
Absolutely. And some of those red flags, of course, are identified by the individual or by the loved ones or those surrounding that person. So severe mental and physical stress can manifest itself with, sleep problems, like I said, irritability, changes in weight, changes in mood. And so those are some of the red flags. And in the event that there is severe depression, that could be an impetus to reach out to a health professional to seek additional support. This
is helpful. So we know what stress is, we know how it could affect us, we know some triggers. How do we deal with it in a healthy way?
I'm glad you asked that question, Vanessa, because there are some tools that are readily available at our disposal, such as our breath. Our breath is a prime way that we can access the relaxation response. And what the relaxation response does is it allows our body to return back to that state of relaxation, which is a decrease in our heart rate, a decrease in our blood pressure.
Slowing things down.
Exactly. And we need to be intentional about that. We need this relaxation response to occur several times a day, from deep breathing techniques, meditation. There are apps that allow you to meditate and calm yourself. Even in this virtual world that we're living in, getting up from your computer several times a day just to stretch, and be mindful of that. And of course, our diet. That cannot be overstated enough. Diet and exercise. The beauty is actually in its simplicity. Diet, a heavily plant-based diet, filled with fruits and vegetables and whole grain, is a tremendous contributor to our overall health and well-being and to decrease our stress.
So there's some simple things we can do, and starting right today.
Absolutely. And also a spirit of attitude and gratitude and prayer.
Oh, love that. And is there anything else we should know about stress and how to deal with stress?
Well, it was one of the things that also Dr. Hans Sayeh stated was that it's not the stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. So definitely having a plan and setting goals to regularly de-stress and return your body to the relaxation response. And one of my favorite scriptures comes from Philippians, the 4th chapter, and verse 6. Do not be anxious for anything, but in all things through prayer and supplication, make your requests made known unto God. So, as people of faith, we have that to always go back to.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dr. Prim.
And thank you, Vanessa.
And so thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next month for our next Doctor's Corner.